Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about the world of Impact Wrestling, and let's talk about a new championship. Yes, a new title has been announced for Impact Wrestling. This one came out of nowhere, didn't it? It really did come out of nowhere, and it's the new Digital Media Championship. Now, that name we will get into. We will get into that name because I really do have some thoughts on that name, it must be said. But look, there's a new championship that's announced in Impact Wrestling. A lot of people, I've seen this time and time again, have been talking about should a mid-card title be introduced to Impact. You've got the World Championship, you've got the X Division Championship, but they're kind of mutually exclusive. The X Division's kind of just there on its own. Sometimes it feels like a mid-card title, and then sometimes it feels like just something completely different. And some people in the past have said, well, there is room for this mid-card title. Now, they tried to kind of do it in the past before with the Legends Championship back in the day. That turned into the Television Championship. What did that turn into? The Grand? So the Grand Championship was something different. They've tried it in the past. I don't know if this is what this title is going to be. Now, Impact Wrestling, the rumours about them introducing a new title just emerged just before the show last night on Access TV. It was first reported by PW Insider, who announced prior to the show that an announcement would be made regarding a new championship being added to the Impact Wrestling broadcast and the company going forward. And we didn't have to wait too much longer because on last night's edition of Impact Wrestling on Access TV, the Impact Digital Media Championship was announced as the company's newest title. Now, a single elimination tournament is set to begin next week to determine the inaugural champion, which will primarily be defended through the promotion's digital social media and Impact Plus streaming service. Matches will be on Tuesdays/Wednesdays on Impact Plus. Then they will appear shortly after on YouTube Ultimate Insider. And the finals for the championship will take place at Bound for Glory on October 23rd. So the following matches that have been announced for next week are John Skyler versus Zicky Dice and Hernandez versus Crazy Steve. It wasn't mentioned what specifically those matches were before, so again, I don't know if it refers to this Digital Media Championship. I have quite a few thoughts on this, to be honest with you. First of all, the title itself, you can see it right there. The title itself looks fine. I think as a bout, I think it looks okay. I don't think it's completely ugly and a horrible looking championship. Time and time again, we see nowadays in pro wrestling that every time a new championship is introduced or a title bout is upgraded, sometimes it's for the worse, but I think this one looks fine. I must say, I think the name could be so much better. Could be so much better. The Digital Media Championship just feels so... It's very wordy. It's very... I suppose they can't technically do Internet Championship. Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona, whatever you want to call him, has that name. So maybe they couldn't do Internet Championship, or they didn't want to go with Social Media Champion because it's more than that. But I think the best name, and I don't know if they could do this or they couldn't do this or if they looked into this or what, but surely the Cyber Championship is the way to go. The Impact Wrestling Cyber Championship, I think, just works. Digital Media Championship, look, at the end of the day, it's not a hill to die on, is it? You know, it's not something like, oh, this whole idea is going to be a complete failure because it's called the Digital Media Champion. But in reality, if you're just someone that isn't involved, look, it's different for someone like me. I'm involved in social media. I do, obviously, streaming, and I've worked in marketing and social media for a long time, specifically digital marketing. So when I hear digital media, it doesn't just sound terrible to me. The problem is I think about someone that is just a pro wrestling fan. They're not a fan of social media. They don't really use it that much. It's just digital media. And again, this comes from a guy that worked in marketing. It's such a marketing buzzword. Who calls watching YouTube or who calls Impact Plus or whatever, oh, it's all that digital media? Nobody says that. Nobody says that. They call it YouTube, or they call it videos, or they call it internet or cyber. You know what I mean? That just for me feels far more... Digital media feels like something that someone who works in digital media, that's what they'd call it. Your general person watching down the street, walking up and down the street rather, or your just casual pro wrestling fan, I don't think calls it digital media. They don't. That's what corporate people call it. That's what executives call it. They go, how's the digital media working? We need to improve on our digital media. Fans don't call it that. So I think the name is just very strange. And the only thing I can think of when it comes to why they called it that in the first place is that they exhausted the other options and they couldn't do the Cyber Championship. Or I don't think, again, you could call it the Social Media Championship because you don't really want to be a social media champion. I think that has quite a few connotations to it. But as far as the title bout itself, I think the title looks fine. Again, the name I'm not crazy on. The idea, I mean, it might be, to be honest with you, it might be a stroke of genius in terms of driving awareness to their social media and digital platforms, in the sense that if you've got a championship that's just primarily, you can only see these matches happen and the title matches and title changes happen on social media or on Impact Plus or on the YouTube Ultimate Insider, which they're trying to push a lot of people towards. They definitely have identified that as a major revenue stream for the company, putting a lot into that Ultimate Insider stuff on YouTube right now, the membership platform. Then maybe it could be a stroke of genius. Maybe it does, bring eyeballs to their social media or to Impact Plus, or maybe it does lead to an uptake in subscriptions or membership signups for YouTube. I would wait and see. I would have to see that to believe it, to be honest with you, because I kind of get the impression of this championship's only going to be as important as they make it. And that might sound like a really stupid comment to make, but what I mean is, if you've got just mid-card guys fighting over this championship on Impact Plus, nobody's going to care. They won't. You have to give the audience a reason to care about the championship, and you have to give the audience a reason to sign up to Impact Plus or to be a YouTube Ultimate Insider. Just having a championship alone and just having matches that you can only see on Impact Plus, people will be like, that's great, who's in there? Because if the people that are in it aren't worth watching, I'm still not going to sign up, or I'm still not going to sign up to the Ultimate Insider. If those people that are competing for the Digital Media Championship are Josh Alexander and Ace Austin or Christian Cage or whoever it may be, some of the biggest stars on the Impact Wrestling roster, then okay, that's worth signing up for. If I'm thinking, right, the Digital Media Championship is going to be on the line on Impact Plus, it's going to be Josh Alexander versus Ace Austin, 45 minutes Iron Man match, I'll sign up, I'll watch it, because that title means something, that match means something. It doesn't really change anything. In the same way you're trying to sell a pay-per-view event or you're trying to sell a match, that should be the same way they're trying to sell this title. If it's just an idea just to drive people towards signing up to Impact Plus or the Ultimate Insider platform, you have to sell it in the form of having great matches. The title itself isn't enough right now. Now, again, it could be a stroke of genius, but I think, again, it all depends on how they book this title going forward. So I'll have to wait and see. Again, as far as the look of it, looks fine. Name, not crazy about. But it's an interesting development, to say the least. One that I definitely didn't see coming, it must be said. Let's move on. Last night, of course, was Impact Wrestling on Access TV, and it saw the return of Heath to Impact Wrestling Television, because after almost a year out of action, Heath is back inside of the Impact Zone. Heath made his first appearance for Impact Wrestling on the September 30 show, yesterday's show, since sustaining an injury at Bound for Glory 2020, getting involved with his former tag team partner Rhino, of course, who has been having issues with Violent by Design. Now, Rhino had been attacked by the other Violent by Design members a couple of weeks ago, kicking him out of the group after they blamed him for the faction's failures to regain the Impact Tag Team Championships. And Eric Young, Joe Doring, and Dina once again confronted their former teammate on last night's show. However, Heath then made a surprise return to the ring, coming to the aid of Rhino, clearing Violent by Design from the ring. The 38-year-old then turned to his old teammate for an embrace, only for a confused Rhino to instead leave the ring and the arena on his own. So Heath looks great. Great to see him back inside of an Impact Wrestling ring. Again, it's been nearly a year. He got injured at Bound for Glory last year. He was meant to win that Call Your Shot gauntlet. That was the whole storyline last year. When he came in Slammiversary, wasn't signed to a contract. Basically rehashed the 2016 storyline of him on SmackDown Live of trying to get a contract. If he won the match, he would get a contract and an opportunity at a title. He came out during the gauntlet, did maybe like 2 moves and then got injured off a kick. I think it was a high kick. And again, he was in the match for seconds before that happened. It was so unfortunate, and they had to change the plans around of the entire match. He was meant to win that match, and in the end, they switched it. He got eliminated, and actually Rhino won the match. And in the end, they tied that into Rhino giving Violent by Design the tag team title opportunity with the Call Your Shot gauntlet trophy, all that kind of stuff. So interesting to see how this one plays out. I was kind of surprised that he comes out to the save of Rhino and tries to give him a bit of an embrace. But remember, the way he got written off of TV was Violent by Design attacking Heath. And surely surely he would be upset that for a brief period of time, even if Rhino isn't with Violent by Design anymore, this is still the group that attacked him and put him out in terms of kayfabe, right? That's still the same group. So if I was Heath, I'd be a little bit like frustrated, being like, okay, I'm glad you're not with them anymore, but you were with them for months after they attacked me. What's going on there? What's going on there? But nevertheless, great to see Heath back. Looks to be in great shape. I'm really happy for him because, look, it was a big deal him coming to Impact Wrestling in the first place after he got released by WWE. And then, of course, WWE offered him the opportunity to come back after that appearance on Raw. They offered him a contract to come back and he turned it down. And he actually went to Impact Wrestling instead. And I think he had all of these grand ideas of what this post-WWE career would look like for him. And he didn't get to do it because he's been injured for the last 12 months. So a big time for Heath right now. And I really, really do hope he succeeds, but great to see him back inside of an Impact Wrestling ring, it must be said. Now, before we move on to the next one, this is a big spoiler warning because this is yet to air, as far as I'm aware anyway, on Impact Wrestling television, but a big event did indeed take place at the last set of Impact Wrestling television taping, so I'll give you a 5-second spoiler warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, you've been warned. We'll talk about Awesome Kong being inducted into the Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. Yes. Now, Impact Wrestling had some television tapings a couple of weeks ago now, and during those tapings, they held, of course, the Knockouts Knockdown event, which, of course, will air on October the 9th on Impact Plus. We'll be doing a watch-along and a post-show. Now, during the event, Impact Wrestling inducted Awesome Kong into their Impact Hall of Fame, and during the ceremony, she dedicated her induction to Daphne, who, of course, passed away at the beginning of September last year. It's actually a month ago today. Now, Awesome Kong has been a major factor in Impact Wrestling and before that TNA over the years. She was part of arguably the greatest Knockouts rivalry in Impact Wrestling history against Gail Kim. Some of the best matches, not just in Knockouts division history, but also Impact Wrestling history, were between Awesome Kong and Gail Kim. Now, Kong is a former 2-time Knockouts champion, as well as a former Knockouts Tag Team champion. She was the 2015 Queen of the Knockouts and won gold in 2016. And during the same year, she actually inducted Gail Kim into the Impact Hall of Fame. Now, she recently announced her official retirement from professional wrestling at NWA Empower last month. Was at the end of August as well. Time is just rapidly getting away from me right now. And it was to none other than Gail Kim, bringing things full circle. Now, again, I was so thrilled to see this. So thrilled to see this. Again, one's assuming this will probably take place during the Knockouts Knockdown event, which would be next weekend. Wouldn't it be next weekend? My goodness. The time is just, like I said, time is just getting away from me so quickly. But I was thrilled to see it. I mean, Awesome Kong, when the Knockouts division was first implemented by Impact TNA in 2007, 8, it was Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. They were the two. Yes, there were other people on the roster, the Beautiful People, etc. Roxy Laveau, ODB, those names were very influential in the early sort of formation and foundation of the Knockouts division. But it was those matches between Awesome Kong and Gail Kim that really put the division on the map. There's no doubt about it. They hold up today. They're just as good as they were however many years ago. What's that, 13 years ago? Something like that now. They're just that good today. And they were just different, so different. That's what made the Knockouts division so great. And what continues to make it so great today is that it's different. It's just so different. At the time, you had WWE with their Divas division, and it was everyone that frankly looked the same, talked the same, walked the same, and could barely work, with the occasional people in them that could work. But the Knockouts division just had real people, and it had completely different people and different styles. And at the time, you didn't have people like Awesome Kong in WWE. You just didn't, because she didn't fit the mold. And it was a shame because Awesome Kong's a badass, and she proved it time and time again. Her music was great, you know, the sort of, as soon as you hear the dun, 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 dun. I mean, it was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So I was thrilled to see this when I saw it. When did I see this story? I saw it a couple of days ago. It must be like a week ago, actually. Just again, this time at the moment has been crazy. But I was absolutely thrilled to see it, and no doubt more than deserved. One of the, arguably in terms of the last sort of 20 years, in terms of women's wrestling. For me, Kong's right up there as being as influential as anyone. Truly, and I know people will say, you know, Trish Stratus, Lita, etc. Sure, from the WWE point of view, yes, but in terms of the style that we see today from female performers, Kong's right up there, and she opened the door for, those sort of bigger females to really be treated as proper pro wrestlers and to have great matches against the likes of Gail Kim, and their chemistry was just off the chart. So really, really glad to see that, and can't wait to see it when it does indeed air on television. We have an update when it comes to Sami Callihan, who of course is out of action until next year with a really serious leg injury. Now, he sustained a broken ankle at the television tapings a couple of weeks ago, and Impact Wrestling now has released a storyline, an angle surrounding all of that, so at least it makes sense from a kayfabe point of view, because Impact Wrestling has released a backstage video of Sami Callihan being tended to at recent television tapings from Skyway Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, it was noted earlier in the month how Callihan suffered a broken ankle, a broken tibia, and a broken fibia whilst doing a suicide dive from the ring to the floor at the most recent set of Impact Wrestling television tapings. Now, Callihan underwent surgery in Nashville and was released from the hospital and expected to be out of action until mid-2022 at the earliest. But in an update, Impact's backstage video, which can be seen on social media, notes that Callihan suffered a left leg injury while being attacked by Moose and W. Morrissey. The video ends with Callihan being taken away from Skyway Studios in an ambulance as co-workers cheered him on with words of encouragement. Sami tweeted after the announcement and wrote, quote, "Your biggest mistake was leaving me alive. I'll be back." Now, as mentioned, Callihan had surgery earlier on in the month and is already back home in Iowa recovering. He was released from hospital on Tuesday, September 21st. Impact did not give a timetable for his return, but they teased in an update on last night's Impact show. The report from earlier this month is that Callihan is expected to be out of action until mid-2022 at the earliest. So it sucks. I mean, it sucks for a variety of reasons, not just because obviously he's going to be missing from Impact Wrestling television for a long time, but also he was scheduled to compete, of course, and reunite with Jon Moxley as the Switchblade Conspiracy at the Tales of the Ring event, which is his promotion, to face Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards of the Wolves in what was being billed as a tag team dream match, and that's not going to happen now. So it sucks. It absolutely sucks that he's not going to be back for a long period of time. And look, that's a serious injury, a really, really serious injury. I know we spoke about it on the channel previously, but it's a really serious injury. When you're talking about, again, we're talking about 3 breaks here. I mean, it's really, really rough. We're talking broken ankle, broken tibia, broken fibia. Basically, everything that's there in that leg has just been smashed. So it's a real bad injury, and I have no doubt he'll be back. Though, don't get me wrong, I have no doubt he'll be back, anything like that. And we'll still get that Callihan and Moxley match against the Wolves at some time in the future next year. Interesting that they decided to put the heat on W. Morrissey and Moose. I think that says a lot about Impact's plans for those as a tag team. I mentioned that I think they could be booked as like Impact's version of the Road Warriors for the near future, but I do think eventually it's going to be leading to a match between W. Morrissey and Moose, the sort of Clash of the Titans kind of situation. Don't think that'll happen at Bound for Glory. I think they'll win the tag titles first, and then eventually they'll move on and feud with each other. W. Morrissey versus Moose, if they build to it properly, and it looks like they're definitely going to be doing that, with initially pairing them up together, is going to be a major match and a really interesting match between them, between two big guys who are very, very athletic. I think the earliest that match probably happens is Hard to Kill in January. Maybe they even stretch it out till April and go for something like Rebellion or something like that. But time will tell. And when it comes to Sami Callihan, the most important thing is he makes a full recovery, which I expect him to do. Unfortunately, it's just going to be a while. Speaking of last night's Impact Wrestling on Access TV, Christopher Daniels made his return to an Impact Wrestling ring in terms of a match for the first time in 7 years. Now, following an uncertain time in his life after the loss to the Young Bucks on AEW Dynamite, Christopher Daniels has resurfaced in Impact Wrestling in recent weeks as the Fallen Angel, and this week he won his re-debut match against Madman Fulton with his trademark best moonsault ever. I thought Daniels looked good, as to be expected. This is a guy, again, he's what, 50? In his 50s? And it's an interesting time. I don't know what the end game is here, to be honest with you. I don't know how long he's going to be in Impact Wrestling. Sometimes with these Forbidden Door kind of situations, they're there for a couple of TV tapings and then they just disappear. I think that might be one of the issues that they're coming to find with the whole Forbidden Door thing, with these AEW guys coming in and New Japan guys coming in, is that they're there for a few TV tapings and then they just vanish. And there doesn't seem to be any longevity or sustainability with that. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with Daniels. If it's just going to be a couple of cameo performances and a couple of matches, that's fine. If this is kind of a a farewell tour for him, if you will, that he wants to have a little bit of a run in Impact before he finishes up in AEW and retires. He already works in talent relations for AEW. Then that's great. I mean, I would love to see him have one final shot at the Impact World Championship, a championship he's never won, by the way. So I think maybe the direction they could be going in is that they build up Christopher Daniels to the point where he challenges Josh Alexander to be like, right, I'm going to go after the title that I've never ever won before. Alexander would win, obviously, but it allows Daniels to have that one big final moment in Impact Wrestling, and also it puts over Josh Alexander because he beat the Fallen Angel. So I think that might be the direction they're going with that. But great to see Daniels back inside of an Impact Wrestling ring. Of course, someone like myself who was watching TNA back in the day, it's always great to see Daniels back in Impact. Finally, speaking of Josh Alexander, though, we have a match announced for next week's Impact Wrestling on Access TV. Impact World Champion Christian Cage is set to team with his Bound for Glory opponent Josh Alexander against Ace Austin and Madman Fulton on next week's Impact. Austin went up to Impact Wrestling Executive Vice President Scott D'Amore and wanted something done about the recent attacks from Christian and Alexander. D'Amore offered up a tag team match to settle their problems. Now, the X Division title tournament will also continue next week as Black Taurus Steve Macklin and P.T. Williams meet in a triple threat match. Of course, last night, Trey Miguel won his respective tournament match to advance to Bound for Glory to determine who will take the vacant X Division championship. So I think we're going to probably see Trey Miguel versus Steve Macklin. Bound for Glory, maybe, or they're going to be certainly two competitors in there. But look, it's an interesting one. That main event next week. The story is Christian Cage, Josh Alexander. My only concern about what's kind of the situation there is that Ace Austin and not necessarily Madman Fulton, but Ace Austin just feels like part of the story, but I still want him to be involved in something that ends up in a match. Bound for Glory. What that would be, though, I don't know. He doesn't get added to the main event in terms of a triple threat match or anything like that. So I don't know. I just think that him just being involved or helping get over the issue between Alexander and Christian, and then him just being in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet match probably isn't enough unless he wins that match. But time will tell when it comes to all of that. But there's a lot going on in Impact Wrestling right now, and of course, with all the news stories, we'll keep you up to date with everything that happens in the world of Impact Wrestling. But look, guys, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these Impact Wrestling news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about Impact Wrestling, AEW, WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or having come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.